All right. Welcome to the meetup. Thanks for making this a priority and jumping on with us. And let's see if we can add some value to your life and with some of the things we're doing. And so tonight, I'm going to focus on tools that I use and why I use them. We have a good group tonight, and so we're going to dig in and I'm going to share my screen, and then I'm going to share the list. This is meant to be a question and answer and discussion and just kind of go through things and talk about stuff. And it's not meant to be a lecture per se, but and this is not an exclusive list. This is the ones that came to top of mind for me because, occasionally people will ask me, well, what are you doing with, um, how do you do this and how you do that? Um, and I'm gonna, tell you the hidden secret of why I'm doing what I'm doing in the beginning here. And for those of you that um, don't care and are willing to go through all the steps that it takes to be your own private money lender, I applaud that. And I want to be super upfront is that I think 80 to 90% of people don't want to do the work that I'm doing. And the 10 to 20% that want to do it, I'm, I'm an open book. I'll give you anything that you ask for to help you grow your capital and, as I say, flip your capital. So, and you're like, well, what's the point? Well, when it's the law of reciprocity. When you give something away for free, what ends up happening is you endear people to you because they can see your motives are pure and that your desire is to really help. And I truly would love nothing more than someone to call me one day and say, man, I was able to take this concept to flip your capital and I was able to double my money in a safe, protected way, backed by real estate and, very collateralized. And, is there risk? Absolutely. There's risk in any investment that you're going to do, but you absolutely need to know that banks have been doing this for a couple hundred years and they've perfected it. And the cool thing about banks is some of you have heard me say in the past, if you're at any downtown area, just look up and you're going to see banks names across the tops of these skyscrapers. And then any major intersection in your city or town, there's a bank. And so what the banks have figured out is how to lend money. I mean, they borrow at one rate and put it out at another, and they get the arbitrage, but there's also fractional lending, and they don't have to have on hand all that they lend, which is a really, really interesting concept. And that's not what today's discussion is about. But in general, what we're doing is we're being the bank. And we figured out a way to do a lower loan to value. Many banks do loans that are between 95 and 100% lending. And most of the loans that we do are typically between, I like to be, well, I pretty much insist on being below 70%, but I like to be closer to 60 if we can hit it. And, but anyway, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to show you a few different things, tools that I use. And I'll talk about a tool and then I'll stop. And then if anybody's got any other tools that they like or would suggest, I mean, I'd say hit me with it. I'd love to hear what you're up to and what you're using. So first thing that I'm going to throw out here, and I know this may be comical, is Chat GPT. I would say to you, Chat took me, I mean, it's elevated or leveled up my business tremendously. I mean, I'm in the process of writing a little book. It's a 100-page book called Flip Your Capital. And it's basically the story of how I met this guy, Peter, that had made 30 million in 8 years, and how I retooled my business and how others can do the same thing that I'm doing. And I'm just kind of leading them to this group. And just because I know that 80 to 90% of the people won't want to do the work I'm doing, but they like the concept and they want to put capital to work. So um, I wrote a lot of the stuff in the book. I wrote myself, but I would have Chat be my editor and help me to phrase it. And Chat is so much better than I am. And the book's right now with an editor that is not rewriting. I was very firm on that. It's my stories, it's my stuff, but just get it grammatically correct so that I don't get a bunch of hate mail is what I'm trying to do. And um, the editor said to me, there's this and that you could have done and grammatically. And I said, hey, time out. Time out. I barely graduated high school, and I don't say that as bragging. It's just if you knew my background, and a lot of you have no clue about my background, but I'll tell you real quick, and it's not meant to be the story, but I was born into a family where both parents were alcoholics. Mom and dad split up when I was 5. I think I might have been 4.5. We go to live with my aunt and uncle that had 4 children, and there were 5 of us, and we go live with my aunt and uncle for 5 years. They get a divorce, and then we end up moving with this random family that from church, which is the craziest story ever. And so we were, if you think of the worst kids that you could think of in a bad part of town, well, we were those kids. I mean, we were the Dennis Menace, type, into mischief, doing a lot of crazy stuff. And it took a lot for me to, you know, just get through basic things in life because we just didn't have that support at home. But and so if you knew where I came from and where I am today, you'd be like, wow, this is a great story. But if you just see me for who I am, you're just like, well, he's just a normal guy. So, and we all have these things that, these paths that we take to get where we are. And um, so this book editor is asking me about grammatical stuff. And I said, listen, it was difficult for me to get a C in English. So I'm hiring you to make sure the book is written properly. So anyway, that's a long story about that, but I hope to have that available in the next month. And so what am I going to be doing with that is I'm going on various podcasts and going to speak at different real estate investment associations. And so I'm looking for those opportunities. And in fact, August 4th, I'm going to be on a podcast called Growing the Money. And I would just tell you that Rich Lennon, who's the host of that podcast, is, in my opinion, one of the best in the industry. Good guy doing really good things. And I'd encourage you to, listen to his podcast called Growing the Money. But anyway, I'm going to be on that August 4th. So Chat GPT for me has helped me in so many different ways. So I'm going to pause right there. I'm going to open it up for any kind of questions about chat, and then I'm going to go to the next one, and I'm going to show you a deal that I was working on this morning.
So as far as Chat GBT and me, I didn't even know Chat was alive until like the first semester of college in the fall of 23, so a couple of years ago. And it's helped me out quite a bit. In school now, they're really cracking down on Chat GBT, but using it for grammar and spelling and stuff has been a real big help for me.
Yeah. Well, I hear you. And um, anyway, uh, does anybody have like anything they're doing like next level with Chat GPT that you want to share with the group? Because I'd love to hear it if you are.
I'll share one real quick, if you
Yeah,
don't mind, Scott.
yeah.
So I've been digging into a lot between ChatGPT and Claude. I've been using both of them, kind of seeing which one I like better. The first thing I'll say is if you're just using the basic, I think it's called the 4.0 model in ChatGPT, which is good. That is, it's like the everyday kind of thing. It's great, but it really doesn't get into in-depth research. So if you really want to do like some due diligence, you want ChatGPT to really go research something for you, switch it to the O3 model. It's only available for the paid version. You got to pay the 20, $30 a month, but that O3 model it'll take sometimes 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 minutes to think, and then it'll give you a very well researched, thought out response. So if you're doing due diligence work with it, make sure you switch to a deep thinking model. The same with Claude. And one thing I've been doing is I read the book Income Factory by Bavaria. It's about using dividend stocks for like long term success. And I threw that to ChatGPT, and I said, "Hey, I want you to help me build this portfolio. I want you to use this book as the basis." And it not only did it help me kind of create this whole investment strategy that I never would have thought of on my own, but I could then research and back it up and create spreadsheets to track it, and it's spectacular, what it can do. It even helped me write an API so I could pull live data from my account with Fidelity.
All right.
So,
So is this, I'm trying to see who's speaking. Is it
oh, it's
Nathan?
Nate. It's Nate. Sorry.
Nate. All right.
Yeah.
All right, cool. That's very good. I'm glad to hear that. And I'm sure we could go deep with a lot of other people that are a lot smarter. I mean, there's some people on here that I'm telling you that are, wicked smart, not my
Sure.
level smart, just wicked smart. But so does anybody else have anything they want to throw up here? Because I mean, it's great for the group, and I appreciate that, Nate. That was really insightful to know that you could take it to that level. So cool.
I have something. Hello.
Yeah,
I heard about you. You were on Dave Hutz and the DME guy
yeah,
recently. Um,
yeah, yeah.
so on my phone, I recorded the whole conversation that you guys had, and then I went into Gemini. And what I do is I create my own custom GPTs. I probably have about 15 or 20 of them. But I use Gemini to help out with the prompts. The main thing is developing a prompt. Act as, you give them some context. And so I use that and tell Gemini what I'm trying to build. Then I dump that into GPT and boom. And I've created so many niches. Like based upon your conversation, I ended up having creating a website. Well, it's not up yet, but the whole idea is getyourdealsfunded.com.
Yeah.
So I I'm I'm always using it, and I am an idea guy, and it's very addicting. I have like 20 websites that are not up yet, and I just have it in my back of my head. Like one day, I'm going to make something out of it. So
Well, very cool. I appreciate you sharing that. It's
yeah,
Cordell, right?
yes, sir,
All
yes,
right.
sir.
Yeah. And where are you out of?
Uh, Bay Area. I'm right next to Oakland, California.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I spent 3 years in San Jose, so
Yeah, I know.
know the
Yep,
area. So
yep. I heard you say that.
very cool. All right. So I would just say to you, um, I love conversations like this. I'm getting more out of this than I feel like I'm giving, at least on chat. So, or, AI. And I think what I'm going to do is make sure I keep this a part of our dialogues because things are changing so rapidly. Anyway, and there's really cool things that we can share with each other. And but I would tell you again, it's life changing for me. It's made all the difference. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of put the pedal to the metal here for a second. I'm going to show you how we drive our Ferrari and we analyze a deal real quick. And so this URL here, for those of you that aren't familiar with my background, it's not to be a flex, it's just to tell you the pain point that we had, and we had to find a solution. And so we were taking about 500 calls a month from students who'd paid $25,000 to learn how to flip houses. And I would argue that what we're teaching here is every bit as valuable as that because the first deal that you do with us, you can make the 25, and it's a lot less work than flipping a house, trust me. But we built this little calculator to help us analyze the deal really, really, really fast. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a deal that just the calculator part of it that we did this morning. And you can do this in like 5 minutes. And so, you know, it doesn't wear somebody out when they're asking you about funding a deal. So if we double click this, let's get it to pull up. All right, and so this is on my webpage, usaprivatemoney.com/FF, for stands for fix and flip, FF. So it was just a shortcut. And so is this your first rental you know what, I should spend one of our sessions and go through this calculator and really help each of you understand what each box means and why it's so important. And so I'll add that to my list to go over the calculator because I feel like that is so foundational to what we're doing. But for now, I'm just going to go through this fast. I'm going to show you the end result, but I'll add that to my list of things to cover here. So is this your first fix and flip or investment property? If they say yes, I'm going to tell you, hang up the phone. Not really, but just let them know that there's a lot of institutional lenders that do that, and you refer, just you can Google it and you find a company that'll help you. I would tell you stay clear of that, because if you do that deal, you're about to get an education. There's a person needs to do at least 2 or 3 flips and still want to do another one before you do a deal with them, is the simple message I'm going to share. So is the property located in the USA or Canada? I can't tell you that how many times I was on the call and somebody had a good deal, and then I get all the way through it and then I find out it's in Canada, or better yet, it could be in another country that you just wouldn't think that somebody would respond to. And because of our name is USA Private Money, I get leads all the time across the world of people saying, hey, can you fund this? Can you fund that? And I'm like, no, we only do real estate. We're very niched, etc. So here we go. We're going to jump in real quick. And I'm going to have Ian help me a little on this if I get the numbers wrong, but because he has a business partner and they were looking at a deal. So Ian, as I recall, the purchase price was 122.
That's correct.
And the rehab, how much was that?
60,000.
60,000 rehab. And then the after repair value, I think, was 320. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep.
320, 1, 2, 3. All right. And so I'm going to show you right here. You see we're under box 4A. It goes red if the loan to value is not below 70%. So if the loan to value is not below 70%, it's trying to say to you, stop. You're about to make a mistake. If you come over here to box 24, let me get this out of the way. If you come over here to box 24, maybe I can move this down. All right. I'm on a laptop in a hotel room, so I apologize. I don't have my big screens. But if you come over here to box 24, you're going to quickly see it's going to tell you if it's red, you're losing money on the deal. So here we go. Put the extra 0 on this. All right. Now, just if I was on the phone with someone, I'd put these numbers in and I'd quickly look over here to box 24. And box 24 says there's $98,000 of profit available in that deal. So I'm getting excited about the deal because I'm like, hey, that's a good one. But now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to make some quick adjustments. I know that in that marketplace, on a $300,000 home, the hazard insurance is probably $2,000. And but you should be, when you're flipping a home, you should be getting the borrower to have a builder's risk policy, not a hazard policy. And I can pause right there. That's an important thing. That I was in Costa Rica about 2 months ago with a hard money lender that's worth a few million. And I said something about builder's risk, and he's like, wow, I've never used a builder's risk policy. And so I'm just making the distinction that the builder's risk, covers a lot of things that, say, a hazard policy would probably fight you on and be exempted from. So just know there is a difference. If there's any questions, I mean, I'm not an insurance guy, but I'm happy to try to answer it. And you can stop me, but if you scroll down here and you look at this all of a sudden, and I always move that number to 5%. So it's 5% or 5K, whichever's greater is the number that we're targeting. It's, we got wiggle room there, and we'll reduce that if we need to. But then as you come down, and I'm going to hop up here, and I'm going to change the interest rate from 12% to 15%. And then this is for 6 months. I mean, you can go 6 months, or if you want to be super conservative, you can say 8 months, because historically that's the average, is 8 months. But I don't change it, because in our agreement with the borrower, we do a 6 months with a 3-month extension for 1% of the loan amount. And so we add that in. So that boosts our yield. But I know that unless somebody really has their game on, they're going to go past 6 months. But then pay attention right here. This is showing you the number of payments that 6 months interest is going to be, that 15%. So it's showing you what that is. And I'm going to reduce this right here, because let's just say realtor commissions, there's 5. And so now if you look at our profit real quick, it's saying it's 91,000. So remember, we become a capital partner to people. And so what a capital partner means is a private money lender is going to make points, fees, and their interest. But a capital partner is someone is saying, hey, if you've got 12,000 in payments that you need to make, and we've got our points here, if we take that and lump it together, and just so for simple math, let's call it 20K, and we're going to add 20K up here in the price section. I'm going to do some updates to it, but just for now, this is how you would do it. You'd take those and add it together and stow it. And so instead of 122, it's going to be 142. And we're going to come over here and we're going to look at now what our projected profit is. So what's really cool about this tool is I know that it's approximately $57,000. And so I would have a discussion with someone like Ian, and I would say, when we do these deals, we're looking for a profit participation in order to pay all these costs. And I'll show them right here. If you went to a traditional lender, you'd be having to put down somewhere around 37 to 40K to do this deal. Instead, we're covering that. And so in exchange for us covering that, are you cool with sharing the profits in the deal with us? And so if they say, yeah, they're good with sharing the profits in the deal, then I say, what works for you? I just ask them, what works for you? And they'll, about half of the time people say, well, I guess we just split it. And I'm cool with that. So if we split 57,000, I mean, that's what, 28K each or whatever. But I also have a rule that I really want my flipper to be making at least about 30K. Otherwise, you'll end up in Pittsburgh like I am fixing a deal, because if they're not making enough, then they can walk away, and then you got to fix the deal. And I don't want to fix deals like this, but so it's important that you make sure that that flipper is getting a nice payday. And so in this case, I would probably say to someone is, are you okay with me making, 20K and you making 37K? Are you good with that? Now, and in general, I'll tell you that they'll be good with that. And so if you say, if we're making 20K plus you got to add these points here, so it's another 9, so there's 29, and then you've got some interest spread that's going on, and then there's about $1,500 in fees that we're charging. So all of a sudden, you take the 20 plus the 9 is 29, You take the 1,500, we're now above 30K. And so if the capital partners in the deal that fund the deal with me, let's just keep the math simple. If they make 15 and I make 15, plus they make the lion's share of this interest right here. So that's a good deal. That's a deal, in theory, is a good deal. And so to take it to the next level, so I'm going to pause right there and answer questions because I've covered a lot in a short amount of time. Who has a question about this?
How is your money protected? Is it through a lien or through you join as an LLC?
How's the money protected?
Yes, I know it's
Oh,
down the
man.
road. I know you're still analyzing the deal to see if it's a go or no go. I
Yeah,
just wait.
yeah. I would tell you that I want you to envision, is this Cordell again?
Yes, it is.
All right, Cordell. So I want you to envision a treasure chest with a chain around it, and it's got like 15 locks on it. That's what I want you to envision. And the way these locks work is, and that's a whole different discussion. And I'm going to write this down. How is your money protected? And I'm going to do that as a topic. Tell you what, I'll do that one next week. That's a good one. All right. And I'm going to have a graphic ready, a chat GPT graphic ready with a treasure chest with all these locks and what each locks represents. But the short answer is I'm going to tell you that it's the biggest protection you're going to have is loan to value. As far as the property itself, but the bigger protection you're going to have, and we're going to discuss that a little more in this discussion today, Cordell, is you're going to do background checks, you're going to do credit checks, and then there's 5 knockout questions that I ask. I want to know, like, are you current on your personal taxes? And if they say no, either way, I don't care what they say when we start this, and we're gonna pull a background on them, and we're gonna find out if they're current. Because if they're not current, I grew up in North Carolina, and there was a saying that the family that raised us from 10 on said, the mother said, if you waller with pigs, you get dirty. Well, if you get in a deal with somebody that's dirty, the dirt gets on you. So we're trying to protect ourselves and keep the dirt off of us. And so there's these 5 knockout things that, and I'll go through that in real good detail next week about how you're protected. But in general, I'm going to tell you that there's so many ways that we are protected in this deal. I'd say at least 10 that I'm thinking through, but I'll cover those in detail next week, and that'll be a really good discussion. All right, does that work?
Yes.
All right, so just trust me for a second that you are protected better than any bank. You're protected in the deals that we're doing. And all right, and so now that you get the feel for this part of it, there is one other really critical underwriting thing that I want to find out. And so I'm going to go to a different tool real quick. I'm going to get out of here. We're going to go to a different tool. And that tool is Rehab Valuator. Rehab Valuator has simplified things immensely for me because what it will do is it will give you access to pulling comps and property comps and rental comps quickly. And so we're going to create a new deal real quick. And Ian, do you happen to know that property address offhand? If not,
Scott, I don't remember the street address, but it was in Trustville, Alabama.
all right, I'm going to pull it up real quick. I've got your link. And I should have.
I can get that pretty quick too.
All right. So this is really important stuff. Otherwise, I wouldn't waste digging here. But I think I've all right. View the listing, and let's see. Oh, man, I do not see. All right, view detail. Let's see if it'll give me the property address. If it does, then I can put it in here. But
I have it, Scott.
all right.
It's 2962 Queenstown Road in Trussville, Alabama.
Q-U-E Queens what?
Queenstown Road.
Queenstown, one word?
Correct.
All right, there we go. All right, so watch how this tool works. And so you see that picture right there, that's kind of giving you a, you know, I call it a drive-by, but we ought to expand this. Here's a drive-by. I mean, it looks like it's probably an old picture, but it's clearly the first thing that I would ask on this property is, you know, I'd go to chat and I'd figure out how far is this property to a city that has 30,000 people. Do you happen to know that, Ian? Like how far is it to Birmingham or wherever?
It's 5 miles to Birmingham.
All right, there you go. So we're solid there. So now that we have the get data, I'm just going to hit save. And then I'm not going to go through all this here. This is built to be a fix and flip calculator. And when we get to the point to where we're, for lack of a better word, looking for capital partners, I will create one of these and I will make it where we create like a 6 or 7 page document that's accessible to those. And I'll show you one in a second in our portal. All right. And so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go to comps, and in this scenario, I first want to get a feel for what are the comps for rental, because if the rental comps are bad, then it's going to kill the deal. And what do I mean by bad? I want to see what they're getting for rent. And so this is in close proximity, and it's a really recent comp, and it's saying it's 2225. All right, and then so here's another one that's 20, but that's in November of 24, so I'd probably pass on that one. I'd pick this one. I'm looking for date, closest in date. And all right, so these are some decent ones that we're coming up with here. All right. Well, there's one that's going to make it even look better. All right. So I'm going to include in presentation. And so we can see right here, our number is 2,486. So that's the number that I'm trying to figure out. So let's go back to my calculator real quick. And let's figure out, let's go to details and see what our mortgage payment is. See what it is right here? Can you guys see this number in blue? So what I would be looking for is I want it to at least equal what our mortgage payment is. Why? Because that's a contingency for us. When we get to the end of the deal, and everybody's singing Kumbaya right now while we're putting the deal together, and they're putting the hustle on, getting the work done on it. But then when the home gets listed, that's when the real litmus test hits is, you know, if we can sell the home, everybody's partying and celebrating and happy. But if we don't sell the home, we got a situation. And so the situation is that somebody's got to make this payment, because if we get past month 9 and go to 10, 11, 12, at some point, Ian or whoever it is that has this deal is going to be saying, Uncle, I do not want to pay this. So what is the pivot? The pivot, if we come back over here, is we know that the market rent's 2,400. And so now what's happening is I can go to the borrower and say, hey, you got a couple options. You can go ahead and do what's called a debt service coverage ratio loan, and that loan will enable you to refinance and pay us off, and then you can go ahead and rent the home, and you're good to go. So, and their payment, their interest is going to be a lot less than ours. We're at 15. They're going to be somewhere around 7 or 8. I mean, okay, maybe 8.5. But the point is, the rate's going to be almost half what we are. And so it gives a lot of leverage and a huge incentive for that borrower to say, I'm good. I'm just going to refi this, get rid of you, right? We want them to get rid of us. And so we get our money back and we can recapitalize our money back plus our profit participation, because when we refi, in theory, that's coming to us. And now if it doesn't, then we could lop a second behind this loan and we could get paid that way as well. But so I'm going to pause right there. What I just showed you, I don't know anybody teaching this. I don't. And if you do, share it with me, but I've never seen anybody teaching this. But I want this because it's my way to get out of the deal. And if you don't qualify for the loan, no big deal. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to restructure the loan. I'm going to do a loan modification, and I'm going to take it to a 30-year amortization at 15% interest, for 30 years at 70% loan to value. And then there's no buyers out there that would be like, I don't have to give them the 15%. I could test the market and figure out what they want. If they'd be happy with 12, we give them 12 and we keep the 3, and we're in the 3 for 30 years on the deal. It's a really nice magic trick that we can get paid. So anyway, I'm going to pause there. This is a really critical part of what we do. Any input, questions, thoughts?
Hey Scott, it's Nate. I got one, right? DSCR is up to 1.25 typically of the is where they'll go, but we're saying that you want to have it to where you wouldn't go where the rent would be slightly less than the mortgage, right? You're saying you absolutely want to have 100% coverage. You wouldn't go, or do I have that math wrong?
I was going to say, Nate, did I pay you to ask that question? Because that's a really good question.
Okay.
Let me answer it. As the capital partner in the deal, the capital partner is receiving 10%, but we have a note rate of 15. And if you all of a sudden, you look at what the payment is at 10% interest, if I needed to back off of the spread of the 5% and take it in another way, either in a second or equity buyout, whatever, I've got that latitude. And so we're usually, if we're at least at where we match, the mortgage payment with the market rents, then I'm feeling good about that, because I've got some options that I can do. I can reduce the face rate or whatever I need to do to make these numbers work for them. Because what we're basically discussing here is, what is that new payment? Their new payment's going to be at 7.5%, 8% interest, and we're at 15. So they should be able to qualify in spades on payment. Now, they may have an issue with credit, but they shouldn't have an issue, or we're going to be close. Does that help, or did I confuse you more?
No, that totally makes sense, because I was thinking there just wasn't enough, meat on the bone there to necessarily qualify for the DSCR, but you're right, with the difference in interest rate, yeah, it's going to be fine.
Yeah, so they're going to come in line real quick on that, and it gives us an option. Especially, homes are sitting longer in many places, and when you talk to different people and they say, what's your opinion of the market? Most people say it's all specific locale. As if you've got a deal in Scottsdale, it's probably doing just fine. But if you've got a deal, in Apache Junction where we live, I live in the city of Mesa, but the point is Apache Junction is not too far, and it might sit. And if it sits, how do you get out? But the real thing that I want you to get out of this, Nate, is that if let's take it to the next level. Let's say that somebody bought a home for, let's say they paid $350 for the home and they need, I don't know, 50 to 70,000 in renovation. So now you're at 400 to 420. And let's say that the market value is 600, and in theory you're going to make 100K to do the deal. Let's just say that you were going to make 100K. Well, the problem with that deal for me is that if the market goes soft or it sits, the debt payment on that is probably $4,000 a month, maybe more, and market rents are probably about half that. And the joke in our industry is that hard money lenders become property managers in a soft market. And so if you don't want to become a property manager, meaning you're going to get an REO, which is real estate owned, it'll go to auction, it won't sell, it goes back to the bank, you're the bank, it'll come back to you, because the person's like, uncle, I'm not stroking a 5K a month note. So that's the stuff that we're mitigating in the deals we're doing. I know we're beating this up a little bit, but I want to make sure you get the concept.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. All right. So that is the second tool. And where are we? All right. We're not making as quick a progress through our list, but I'm gonna turn it up a little bit. But you can see how Rehab Valuator does that. And I didn't show you the other part of that is you could do the quick comps. And let's just do the comps real quick. Comparable sales. If he's saying to me, it's going to sell for 320, and then let's see if it'll show me something. I'm just looking real quick here. I'm just perusing this and wanting to see how close to 320 it is. All right. And so here's my quick assessment on this. If let's just say that we had gotten down the path on this deal and it was something that everything else looked good on it, I would say to you that the comps to me are light. They're not 320 based on what I could see. And it doesn't mean that Rehab Valuator has the right comps, because I'll frequently have a real estate agent pull comps and send them to me and say, no, these are the ones that sold. And, if I could see the date they sold, then I'll go in and we'll add them in here manually and I can use those as comps. But if I'm going to be transparent, what I don't like about this deal at this point is that I got to be the high comp, and I don't want to be the high comp. I want to be the mid to low comp. I mean, so that's the high level without us, really, getting into the weeds here. Because if I were to dig around and I'm looking for the most recent sell, I mean, clearly this is one that someone is buying in rehab. And let's scroll down. All right, so here's a 300, and let's.
Hey, Scott, I'll
Yep.
just point out that, so this house is across the street from a lake, and you've got a view of the lake from every room in the front of the house.
Okay, so that's what we call compensating factors.
Yeah.
and so stuff like that. So he would come back to me with other data points. But if I just do this real quick and I see what my value is somewhere between 295 and 300, and his was 320. And so we're not too far off, and perhaps he could show me something else. I'm not saying I wouldn't do this deal. I'm just saying I need more information. And but that's the high level how I would assess that deal. If I were doing this without any conversation and just like, focused, I'd comp this thing out and underwrite this deal in probably, I don't know, 10 minutes. And so I can give a quick no or a quick yes to an investor. All right. So that's why I like that tool. And then Zillow, we all know what Zillow is, but there's things about Zillow. We could spend an entire session talking about Zillow. There's data points in Zillow that you can dig in and you can look at. They have the schools, and they have the, tax information, and they have the rental information. It's just a good resource. And so I'm going to leave that at that. But just know that I use that. I'll go out and double check. And one of the things I like to see on Zillow is I like to put in the property address of the home and see what it says that it's worth. And let's say if it said it's worth 200,000 and we're thinking we're at 320, or if there's a home within, a mile or so that there's several homes that sold for 200, I'm going to dig into that. I want to understand what's going on, because I don't like being the highest price deal. All right. So a lot of you know that I've recently signed up for this portal called Join Lender. I'm going to upload this, and you can go in here and you can watch this 5-minute video on it. And there's some really cool things that you can do in here. And one of the things, so I'm going to stop sharing for just a second, just to protect some privacy, and then I'm going to pull it back up. And I want to show a recent deal that we closed out, just the data points that investors or potential investors are able to see with our deal. So this is a deal that we're just closing out. It should close out tomorrow. But the point I'm getting at is it's anybody that is listed as a potential capital partner or co-lender, you'll see the pipeline and you'll see the deals that we have. And so this one's closing out, and it's going to be funded. I mean, the wires and everything went out in the last 24 hours, but there's some really cool things that are in here that, for example, documents. Look at all the documents that the lenders are going to be able to dig into and see. So this Join Lender platform, it's not the be all that I hoped it would be, but it's 75% better than using a spreadsheet. How about that? Does anybody have any questions about that before I move on? All right. Zimple Money. Zimple Money is a loan management, or I should call it loan servicing platform. And what's cool about Zimple Money is, so there's a little YouTube video here about them, but what's cool about them is that if you're doing any kind of long-term debt, like I have, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 long-term mortgages that I have capital partners with me on the deals, and those are going to go for many years. And you're like, what's the big deal? Well, Join Lender is that you can put 15 loans on their system at $700 a month, and you go above 15 loans and you're now paying $1,000 a month. And there is another service out there called Baseline. And I've got a discussion with them on, well, tomorrow morning. And the difference in their system and join lender is, so let's just say some of you decide that, hey, I really like this business and I want to build my own private money lending business. You can pay $700 a month or whatever for it, but it's just doesn't make a whole lot of sense for somebody that's doing, 2 to 4 loans a year. Whereas in Baseline, if I move to the Baseline platform, I can have sub accounts with what I'd call part-time lenders. And so I'm exploring that, but anyway, it's just something out there to know. But I use Zimple Money for the long-term stuff because they charge me $77 a month to have the account. And then there's some ACH fees when we make payments to capital partners. All right, I'm going to cover something here that I haven't, I've been to multiple things and I've never had anybody say this about private money lending, but right here, taxes owed verification. So there's a service I use called TriChart, and you can basically go there and sign up for their account for free. And each time you pull a report, it's $20. And so it's just one of those things that you can do to make sure that you don't get a surprise. And I don't mean this disrespectful, but listen, when someone's looking for your help to fund a deal, they're not always telling you everything. If you don't ask, they don't tell, kind of thing. And so this just flushes it out and makes sure that you know. And for $20, you should do it. And then Rent Perfect. And you're like, well, what's Rent Perfect? It's a background and credit check for landlords. And you're like, well, we're private money lenders. Why are you telling us about Rent Perfect? And I would say, I'm glad you asked, because you can get a service like TLO, which I've used in the past, and they'll charge you $2 to $10. It's a great little service. But they don't, whereas Rent Perfect is like close to $50. And what Rent Perfect does is I take the property address that someone wants to buy and I put that in as the address that they want to rent. And then Rent Perfect really rakes them over the coals, and they make sure that you know that somebody doing a deal with you isn't on their, at the end of their, like if they're unemployed or if they're have an eviction or they have judgments, collections, charge-offs, bankruptcies, you name it, they're going to find it. And I like their report. It's a very good report. And then it also does a criminal background check. And the criminal background check, the way I do that is when I'm talking to, I had a potential borrower call me today. I said, hey, I got a deal. I understand that blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, let me just tell you real quick what we do and how we do it. And I just said, basically, we're your capital partner. If you're open to splitting the profits with us, we'll look at funding your deal. And I mean, are you cool with that? And he goes, yeah, I'm good with that. I said, awesome. I said, well, let me just be super transparent. We have a couple knockout questions just so we don't embarrass you or frustrate you. And that is, have you had any criminal convictions in the last 5 years? He goes, no. I said, perfect. Then what happens is that we're going to have you pay one time $50 to do a background and credit check. I mean, are you good with that? He goes, yeah, I'm good with that. And I said, then we're not going to have any issue because that's going to come back good, I'm sure. And we'll put that in your file. I mean, this is with people that I have no history with. If I don't have history with you, I can't in good faith bring myself and others in a partnership per se without knowing that, because deals are hard enough without bringing other baggage like that to the table. Okay. Any questions about that?
Yeah, I got one real quick.
Yep.
With the Rent Perfect, you actually need, because I know some of these background checks, they require the person to agree to it, and some of them you can run it without them agreeing to it. Do they have to, sign a agreement to go through the background check with them?
They do,
Okay,
and it works great in my opinion, because if someone
perfect.
says they're not going to do it, then I just, it's an easy pass for me.
Yeah, no, that makes
And
sense. I was just curious.
yeah, and it's really intrusive in a good way for a private money lender and a bad way for a tenant, but it's really intrusive. It's they what I mean, let me tell you a couple things that you'll wish you had. You'll wish that you had their social security number verified. You'll wish that you had a copy of their driver's license and you had that verified. You'll wish you knew where they work. You'll wish you knew where they lived. You'll wish you had all of this stuff when a deal goes sideways. And their system is set up to where um, they're going to catch all of that, and they're going to make the person verify it. And so, just a sidebar discussion. If I ask you what your home address is and you tell me a fictitious address because you don't want me to know where you live, um, I mean, there's ways that I can find it, but it's not fun or easy to find. And so I'm going to ask you in the application process, I'm just going to say, do you own or rent? And I want to know if they own for a different reason than what the lender wants to know typically. The lender typically wants to know because they don't want you moving into the property that you're flipping. Because if you do that, if you allow somebody to do that, you've now put yourself in harm's way, because owner occupied properties require licensed loan officers and or brokers to do that transaction. And if you weren't licensed, some of you on the podcast heard me say I got fined $15,000 one time, um, after I had paid an attorney $7,000 to tell me there was an exemption in that state and many other states. But I got fined nonetheless, and I ended up paying $5,000. So you want to be certain from that standpoint. But the real reason I want to know this is I want to know what your home is worth. What's it worth? What do you owe? Oh, you have 100,000 of equity. Well, in our loan docs, if you default, then we reserve the right to have a substitution of collateral. And I want to know that you have equity. And now, listen, I'm not an attorney, and I don't know that that would hold up, but it makes a really good argument to get someone to stay in the deal and keep their feet to the fire if they're trying to, walk away from a deal. So there's lots of little things happening here that are really, really important. I mean, we could go down that rabbit hole, but I'm going to leave it at that for now. But that's the reason I like Rent Perfect. It gets me that data. So I'm going to cover just some things that I use that are fun. So if you're not familiar with Frontier and their Go Wild Pass, I have to first say that um, if, you know, Frontier for me is one of my least favorite airlines for many reasons. But I have to give them props for the way they do this Go Wild Pass. Maybe that's the way that they get people to fly with them. I don't know. But here's the cool thing about this. You can spend $600 for the year, and they fly the way I like to fly. I I'm good with last minute. A lot of people like to plan their life, and if I got a situation I want to deal with, I want to go now. I don't want to have to wait 2 weeks when airfare's low or lower and go. And so the flight from Phoenix to I flew into Cleveland, to be clear. I couldn't get the location to Pittsburgh I wanted in the time frame, etc. So I flew into Cleveland, got a rental car. I had to have a car anyway, and drove a couple hours to get to Pittsburgh. But guess what? I paid a whopping $15 for that flight. So you should know about the Go Wild Pass. And so once I get a crew going here, I'm going to hop down to North Carolina, and there's 4 properties that we're in the middle of with loans on, and I'm going to go look at all those properties, and I'm going to go visit my dad that's in a care center.
Hey Scott,
Yeah.
are you intending to be sharing your screen right now? Because you're not.
I am. Have I not been sharing my screen?
Not that I can tell.
Oh my gosh. See, let me go back here. All right, here's the Go
That's
Wild
better.
Pass. Here's the Go Wild Pass. You should see this. See this right here? Annual pass, 600 a year. And you can, it's not good for Alabama, I will say that. But in general, it's pretty amazing. Car rentals, I use Costco. They're usually 10 to 15% discount, and they have some other perks, like I can book it. I don't have to pay. It reserves it. I show up and it's there for me. And if for whatever reason, I change my trip and I don't go when I think I'm going to go, it didn't cost me anything. So that's why I like using Costco to book that. And then Upwork, I've talked about this in the past. This is a great place to hire virtual assistants. There's a lot that we could discuss about Upwork. And I've already talked to you about ChatGPT, but we haven't talked about a thing called SiteWire. And SiteWire is a service that has the contractor. It's a draw management and inspection platform. And basically what happens is every time you do a draw, you can have the contractor upload the information you want, pictures, video. And if you go through a demo with SiteWire, what you're going to learn is, they're really sophisticated. They know the GPS location, and maybe I'm not saying that right, but they have the location stamped on and they verify that the pictures occurred at the location so that somebody didn't go to a different property and act like they were uploading pictures. And so I would tell you it's worth going through a demo with them, and just so you could understand. I've just gotten enrolled with them. And so what I'll now be able to do is when we do a draw, so anybody that's in a loan with me, they are considered a capital partner in the deal, and can give input and feedback on whether or not we issue a draw request. And we're going to have these pictures and videos and whatever. So if somebody wants to get that granular, you can, because it's here and you can see it. And anyway, you should know about this if you don't. Any questions about that? All right. And then how to find contractors, Facebook groups, and Home Depot. And if you're saying, what are you using the contractor for? Remember, I like funding the contractor. I like the contractor to be my borrower. I'm not opposed to it being a flipper, but I prefer, if I could choose, I would choose the contractor. Why? Because they've got the experience. They know how to fix the problem. And then how to find investors. I'm just going to tell you that my favorite way to find investors is to go to events, especially note investing events. And all the IRA companies out there hold them. I shouldn't say all, a lot of them do. They hold them. And, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to fly into Houston and go to some of the heritage events, because they hold events once a month, mix and mingle with their IRA holders, account holders, and they're looking for places to put their capital. I'm probably only going to do this for another 6 months aggressively because I'm getting more capital than I need. But the point is, for those of you that might be wanting to grow your business, this is the way you would do it. And then podcasts. Podcasts are pretty awesome, especially in the note space. If you can get an opportunity to be a guest on one of those, it's a big deal. There's lots of listeners and that kind of thing. So that is my list. I'm going to stop and just answer some questions and see if I can be helpful at all to anyone.
You normally go in person and visit any of these properties that we're flipping, or I guess funding to flip, or only when you've got a situation that you got to handle?
I would say in general, I have been going to the properties, and I work at home, and so I like getting out. So in general, I would say yes. But I don't, you'll notice I haven't made that a statement anywhere that I do that. But in general, I like to do that.
What are your top ways to find contractors to partner with?
In Birmingham,
Not in Birmingham, in general. Like, what are your top ways to find contractors to partner with?
how to find contractors.
Yes, sir. Yes.
If you're saying, how do you find them? You find one good one and the word will spread like wildfire because they're really connected. And then the other thing is that you just go on these Facebook groups like buy, sell groups, neighborhood groups, whatever. Anyway, I don't know if that's like as detailed and as specific as you want, but I'm just going to tell you it's going to take some effort and it's work. And in North Carolina, I have one crew there. They come in like a wolf pack, and they do what would take 3 months, they do in a month. I mean, they just go into just buy and sell groups and post that, hey, we are looking for contractors. And what I'm going to tell you what happens, like today, a lady called me and said, yes, my husband can be there at 4:00. She saw it in a buy and sell group and she sent her husband over. And that's how these wives are in these groups and they put their husband to work.
That's a follow-up question. So besides that, do you ever look up if a person has a license, contracting license, if it's valid in the state, or if they are like a handyman, does that back away? You back off.
You got really good questions. So let me tell you some things that I have learned the hard way. States like Pennsylvania, for whatever reason, anybody can go get a license, a general contractor's license at that. And it's bewildering to me. And I learned this the hard way when I had a roof put on, and a guy, I said, are you a general contractor? And he sent me his license and whatever. And that guy was a bum. He did the job halfway. And then when I fought him on it, it disappeared. And he was a bum. And I kept having these issues in Pennsylvania. I was like, what is going on here? So what I'm going to tell you is that just because someone says they have a license, it's just not the case. And there's some trial and error if you are the one flipping the home. But remember, I'm looking for people that we are the capital partner to. I am not out chasing, trying to find deals that I'm flipping. I did some of that, but I'm not out looking for people for me. I'm out looking for people that I can go to work with. And so the questioning should change. So the moment that someone says that they want me to fund a deal for them, remember, they're going through a background check, they're going through a credit check, They're going through, checking their tax records. I'm verifying where they live. I mean, we're going through an exhausted list of stuff. So it's not the same. So what I'm doing in Pittsburgh is the exception. Does that help?
Yes.
But I would tell you, if you're going to get in this business, I feel like you have a duty and a responsibility to get on a flight and fix the problem. If you partnered with somebody else with capital, you have the responsibility to fix the problem, in my opinion.
So this
Yeah, it's
particular
kind
deal,
of good
it's
to have direct flight rather than fly across the country being in California.
Yeah, it's expensive. I don't want to act like it's not. I mean, this trip's gonna, probably cost me a couple grand, but so what? It's part of the business and it's part of what I got to deal with, right? I mean, I got a situation, I got to fix it. Go ahead, Josh.
yeah.
Or
So
Joe.
I was just asking about the exit for this particular deal. You're effectively just going to finish the fix and flip, do the rehabs yourself, and then sell the house, or how are you exiting?
Yeah, exactly. So the quick answer is yes, I'm gonna stay out here for another week with this crew. I'm gonna go there daily and I'm gonna pay them daily is the way that I found this works for me. If they don't, otherwise, if I disappear, they disappear.
Cool.
But
Enjoy your week, I guess. Sorry.
yeah, well, this is live lending, right? I mean, if you're going to do it yourself, you got to be willing to do stuff like this occasionally. I mean, I haven't had to do anything like this in a few years, but and we should talk about that. If you do, well, I'll say it this way. You ought to expect 10% of the deals aren't going to go the way you want them to go, and you got to deal with stuff. It's just the way it is. And so we try to build in these contingencies and everything else. But at the end of the day, we don't live in a perfect scenario. And so we've got to go put boots on the ground. We got to deal with some stuff.
What is your co-lender's role in, I guess, the situation?
Well, they can decide, they get to decide how active they want to be. So this doctor, I called him and I said, all right, here's the situation. Here's what I'm proposing. What do you suggest? And he just said, I'm in 100% support. You go do what you need to do. And, I mean, what else is he going to say? He's not going to stop his dental practice to go do this, and nor should he. But he should be in the middle of it. And 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 in full transparency, I said to him, we're probably going to be an additional 12K in repairs to get the stuff done that we got to do. I mean, are you liquid enough to do that? Can you handle that? And he said, yep, I got it. And he wired me the money and I just went and did it. So, I mean, if he wasn't going to do it, then I would do it, but it has to be done to get us out of this deal.
I have
Any,
another question. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm hogging
no,
it
go
up.
ahead.
I got a self-directed IRA that's about to come. My employer changed, I don't have access to it. Do you allow a way where I can invest, but at the same time learn by doing, but become a client, and then I can kind of learn from you and then try to go out and do it my own? Do you offer things like that?
Yeah, and what I would say to you is the way I built this was to make that be the case for you, meaning look at me as like training wheels. You got training wheels on with me. You're going to see the underbelly of everything. And yeah, guys, I know some of you got to bounce off. I understand, no problem. Thanks for showing up. So yeah, look at me like training wheels. You're in a safe environment. I've done a lot of deals, and I'm going to protect you from as much of it as I can. And then if we get in a situation, I'm going to guide you through the situation. And so what I say is, fun 2, 3, 4, 5 deals with me until you feel comfortable. If you want
What's
to
that
take,
min? What's the minimum on that? typically?
Oh, I don't care. I'm not gonna inflict a minimum on you. I think what I would say to you is, um, you do 2 or 3 deals, and like a flipper, you're gonna have enough experience, and you're gonna see all the documents, how they work, why we use what we do. Yeah, Nate, good to chat. Yeah, so you're gonna experience a lot with the deal, and I would tell you, if you can do one deal and you're good, then I'm good. I don't have a minimum, and I'm not gonna make you feel bad about it. So, but you should do 2 or 3 deals if you want to jump into the frying pan and do this. You should do at least 2 to 3 deals, and you should make sure that your documents and your calculators are working the way you need them to work. And as long as you have that, and then you're willing, if required, to hop a flight, which is going to be rare, but you got to know that somebody's got to do that part.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Anybody else got any questions, input, thoughts? All right, well, we're gonna have a couple of deals come up in the next, I would say to you, probably mid-August, I'll have a couple new deals. If you know, anybody's ready to put some capital work, let me know, and we'll make sure you're on the list, or go into your lender platform and put what you want to put to work, you know, list it out there so I know what it is. But anyway, um, I think you can have an amazing business, and I would, Cordell, I would tell you that um, if you, well, I'll say it this way: if you go out and you raise $1 million, and you go do the deals with $1 million, that's going to pay you about 150,000 a year. But if all of that money is yours, the full million, then it's going to pay you double that. It's going to pay you probably 300,000. But there's a part of this that we didn't discuss, and that's if the deals go for a year. And most of our deals just don't go for a year. I've had several go 4 months, 5 months, 6 to 8 months. So the point I'm getting at is, if somebody had $500,000 and they learned how to do this business, they could realistically make what you would make if you had $1 million, because you're entering and exiting, you're really active. So it's a pretty solid 2 to 300,000 a year opportunity for somebody like you to put your money to work. And if you learn how to do it, and pick your area, I tell you, pick a area and just try to get some economies of scale. And for me, that's North Carolina in general as a state. Is If I had to pick one spot, it'd be that.
Do you do a state or metro?
I do a metro, but
Oh, all right.
but like right now, most of my businesses is in Fayetteville, North Carolina, which is a couple hours away from Charlotte, where I grew up. But I'm spreading that a little bit. Like when I go to Charlotte here in a few days, maybe a week, I'm going to meet with a guy in a suburb of Charlotte that's called Gastonia, and he's a contractor. And we're going to meet and see if if I can start funding his deals, because that puts me closer to my parents, and they're getting older, and I want to be able to visit them. Um, so you'll have your own reasons why you pick an area, but I'm just going to tell you, it needs to be affordable. You need to make sure you don't go above that on the all-in price. Your target is somewhere around 150 all in on your investment. That's kind of your target to keep it affordable, because remember, the rents have to equal what your 15% interest is going to be. And, I had a call today from a guy that ironically called me on this Pittsburgh house. he said, hey, I'm an investor. You open to sell your house, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, we're going to list it and sell it. It's going to be a retail sell. And then we got to talking, and I said, I work with contractors and provide capital. So if you got a deal, maybe I could take a look and maybe I could help you that way. And then he asked the question this way, and I'm going to teach you how to respond to these people in a professional kind way. But he said, what's your points and what's your fees? Like, what do you charge? And I said, you should look at me as a capital partner. It's not about points and fees. It's about profit participation. So if you're looking for someone to help you fund the deal and you're willing to share the profits, then I'd be happy to chat with you. And he goes, so you don't have points and fees? I said, oh, we do. But at the end of the day, if you make 30K and I make 30K and I put mine in different buckets, do you really care where I put my 30K in the deal? And he goes, well, I guess you got a point. So you have to train these people how to work with you, because they're not going to put me in the rate and fee bucket and make me say my rate is 15 and I charge 5 points. You might as well say I charge 100 points and my interest rate is 1,000%, because they're going to revolt, right? So I just don't deal with it, because they're looking at it differently, and we have to help them get their mindset right. So it's not about rate and fees. It's about profit participation and giving you leverage to be able to do a deal where you can just go in and do the work and get paid. And then they'll say things like, well, can I do 2 or 3 at once? And my response is, oh, I don't care if you do 2 or 3 deals at once, but we only fund 1 deal at once. Because you're not going to take our money on the next deal and put it into some other deal. It's not happening. I've lived that. It's not happening. So we only fund 1 deal at a time. You get me to the property being listed. It doesn't have to sell. Get me to it being listed and it's finished. Then I'll jump into the next deal right away with you. All righty. Well, like I said, I do these calls every week, and come with a list of questions and let's go back and forth. But I'm going to cover how is your money protected next week. And I'll go through that in detail, and I'll show you what all those little locks are and how it works. And so I think that'll be a great topic. Is there any parting questions or input before I jump off here? Well, guys, it's been good, and we've had some really fun discussion, and I'd say just reach out to me. Let me know, how it can be a support to you with your business. All right.
I think.
All right. All the best
Thanks,
to you
Scott.
guys.